The United States launched the Manhattan Project in 1942, led by American physicist Robert Oppenheimer after Einstein's warning that Nazi Germany might build an atomic bomb. This massive effort assembled over 130,000 people across secret cities like Los Alamos, Oak Ridge, and Hanford, spending roughly $2 billion in 1940s money. Two parallel pathways were pursued: enriching uranium-235 through massive gaseous diffusion plants and electromagnetic separation, while simultaneously producing plutonium-239 in graphite-moderated reactors along the Columbia River. On July 16, 1945, the world's first nuclear device detonated at the Trinity test in New Mexico, a plutonium implosion bomb yielding about 20 kilotons. Weeks later, Little Boy, a gun-type uranium bomb that was never even tested beforehand, obliterated Hiroshima. Fat Man, the plutonium design, destroyed Nagasaki 3 days later. This pathway was purely indigenous and experimental, solving enormous scientific challenges without any blueprint to follow. American scientists literally invented the nuclear age from scratch, combining refugee European physicists like Enrico Fermi and Leo Szilard with American industrial might. By 1952, they'd tested the first hydrogen bomb, and their arsenal peaked at over 31,000 warheads in 1967. This pioneering effort established the template every other nation would either copy or steal. The Soviet Union learned about the American bomb when Stalin attended Potsdam in July 1945 and immediately told his team to hurry things up. Formally started in 1943 under the codename Project Enormos, the program combined frantic indigenous effort with the most successful nuclear espionage in history. Klaus Fuchs, a British physicist at Los Alamos, passed detailed blueprints of the Fat Man plutonium bomb to Soviet handlers, along with Theodore Hall and others who remained hidden until the 1990s. Western estimates suggest this espionage saved 1 to 2 years of development time. Lavrenti Beria, Stalin's feared secret police chief, ran the project with brutal efficiency, using Gulag prison labor to mine uranium in Siberia and build the Mayak plutonium production complex at Chelyabinsk. Igor Kurchatov led the scientific effort, and his team built graphite reactors modeled on Hanford's design plus gaseous diffusion plants for uranium enrichment. On August 29, 1949, RDS-1 detonated at the Semipalatinsk test site in Kazakhstan, a 22-kiloton near-copy of Fat Man that shocked the West by arriving years earlier than predicted. By 1955, physicist Andrei Sakharov had delivered a true two-stage thermonuclear weapon, and by 1961, the Soviets tested Tsar Bomba, a 50-megaton monster that remains the largest nuclear explosion ever conducted. This pathway proved that espionage combined with authoritarian resource mobilization could rapidly break a nuclear monopoly. The United Kingdom's scientists helped pioneer atomic research and contributed to the Manhattan Project. But the 1946 McMahon Act suddenly cut them off from American nuclear secrets despite their wartime collaboration. Prime Minister Clement Attlee held a secret cabinet meeting on January 8, 1947, where Foreign Secretary Ernest Bevin famously declared they needed the bloody Union Jack on top of an atomic bomb. Britain was broke after World War II, but the government decided nuclear weapons were essential for maintaining great power status and independence from American protection. Indigenous plutonium production reactors were built at Windscale and a gaseous diffusion plant at Cappenhurst, drawing on knowledge British scientists had gained at Los Alamos during the war. Hurricane, Britain's first atomic bomb, detonated at the Montebello Islands off Australia on October 3, 1952, a plutonium implosion device yielding 25 kilotons. For their hydrogen bomb, the British initially struggled with the physics until the 1958 Mutual Defense Agreement restored US-UK nuclear cooperation after Britain proved itself. American scientists shared the Teller-Ulam design secrets, and Britain tested its first hydrogen bomb in 1957. This pathway was largely indigenous for fission weapons, but became dependent on American assistance for thermonuclear capability and later delivery systems like Polaris and Trident missiles, creating what some call dependent independence, where Britain maintains a national deterrent but relies heavily on U.S. technology and infrastructure. France's President Charles de Gaulle was humiliated during the 1956 Suez Crisis when the United States opposed the Anglo-French operation, convincing him that France needed nuclear weapons for true independence. The program actually started in 1954 under the Fourth Republic, with scientists building the G1 reactor at Marcouly for plutonium production. De Gaulle accelerated everything when he returned to power in 1958, pouring resources into the Commissariat à l'Énergie Atomique. This pathway was almost entirely indigenous, though they had early secret cooperation with Israel where technology and uranium flowed both directions. French engineers built gaseous diffusion plants at Pirilat and reprocessing facilities to extract weapons-grade plutonium. Gerbois Blugo, their first atomic bomb, exploded in the Algerian Sahara on February 13, 1960, yielding 70 kilotons, larger than the American and Soviet first tests. De Gaulle exulted, "Hooray for France! Since this morning she is stronger and prouder." Thermonuclear weapons followed by 1968 without American help, with tests conducted in French Polynesia after Algeria gained independence. The force de frappe became the symbol of Gaullist autonomy, with France refusing to integrate its nuclear forces into NATO command and maintaining strict national control. This pathway showed that a determined mid-sized power with advanced scientific infrastructure could achieve nuclear capability independently despite enormous costs. China's leader Mao Zedong decided in 1955 that China needed the atom bomb, declaring that if the nation didn't want to be intimidated, it had to have this thing. The program started with massive Soviet assistance under the 1957 Sino-Soviet Nuclear Cooperation Agreement. Hundreds of Soviet advisors arrived, along with a research reactor, training for Chinese scientists in Soviet labs, and Moscow even agreed to supply a prototype bomb and technical blueprints. But the Sino-Soviet split erupted in 1960, and Khrushchev abruptly withdrew all Soviet experts and aid, leaving the program incomplete. What happened next was remarkable. China finished the bomb entirely on its own through sheer determination and mobilization of returned expatriate scientists like Qin Sanchang and Deng Jiaxian. Gaseous diffusion plants for uranium enrichment and plutonium reactors were built at remote facilities in Gansu province. On October 16, 1964, Bomb 596 detonated at Lop Nur in Xinjiang, yielding 22 kilotons and making China the fifth nuclear power. Even more impressive, just 32 months later on June 17, 1967, a thermonuclear bomb was tested, the fastest fission-to-fusion progression of any nation. This remarkable speed suggests they'd received Soviet theoretical help before the split or made extraordinary indigenous breakthroughs. Israel's nuclear program remains officially unacknowledged under a policy called amimut, or nuclear ambiguity. The pathway started with a secret 1956 agreement where France provided a 24-megawatt reactor at Dimona in the Negev desert, plus a plutonium separation facility, with French scientists training Israeli engineers. This cooperation emerged from shared interests, France needing intelligence on Arab states and Israel desperate for a deterrent against destruction by hostile neighbors. Israeli agents also covertly acquired uranium through operations like the 1968 Plumbat affair, where 200 tons of yellowcake vanished from a ship. American intelligence detected the Dimona reactor by 1960, and tense negotiations followed where President Kennedy demanded inspections. Carefully stage-managed tours concealed the reprocessing plant's true capacity. By 1967, around the Six-Day War, Israel likely possessed at least a rudimentary nuclear weapon capability. No acknowledged nuclear test has ever been conducted, possibly because French-validated designs gave them confidence, or possibly because a suspected 1979 flash detected by a Vela satellite over the South Atlantic was a joint Israeli-South African test, though this remains disputed. Declassified CIA documents from 2015 confirm Israel received crucial French assistance and achieved weaponization decades ago. Today, estimates suggest Israel possesses 80 to 400 nuclear warheads. India's pathway to the bomb spanned decades of patient infrastructure building cloaked as peaceful nuclear energy. Homi Bhabha, Cambridge-educated and visionary, established India's atomic energy program in 1948, obtaining a Canadian-supplied Cyrus research reactor and American heavy water in the 1950s under Atoms for Peace, with no weapons safeguards. This civilian infrastructure was used to produce weapons-grade plutonium, extracting it through an indigenous reprocessing facility at Trombay. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru opposed weaponization, but after China's 1964 nuclear test and India's humiliating 1962 border war with China, strategic calculations shifted. His daughter Indira Gandhi authorized what India called a peaceful nuclear explosion on May 18, 1974, at Pokhran, detonating a 12-kiloton plutonium device. The international community wasn't fooled, and Canada immediately cut nuclear cooperation while the Nuclear Suppliers Group formed specifically to prevent another Cyrus scenario. 24 years under technology denial followed, during which India developed indigenous enrichment capability and advanced weapons designs. Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee authorized Pokhran 2 on May 11, 1998, 5 simultaneous tests including a thermonuclear device. Vajpayee's letter to President Clinton cited the Chinese threat and Pakistan's covert arsenal as justification. Pakistan's nuclear journey began with humiliation after losing the 1971 war and seeing East Pakistan become Bangladesh. Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto vowed in 1972 that Pakistanis would eat grass, even go hungry, but would have their own atomic bomb. Lacking India's established nuclear infrastructure, they pursued uranium enrichment rather than plutonium. The breakthrough came through Abdul Qadir Khan, a metallurgist who worked at Warenko's enrichment facility in the Netherlands and stole centrifuge designs, returning to Pakistan in 1976 as a hero. Khan established a secret enrichment plant at Kahuta, procuring components through an elaborate clandestine network spanning Europe and Asia, buying vacuum pumps from Germany, marrying steel from Britain, and inverters from Switzerland through front companies. Even more crucially, China provided decisive assistance in the 1980s, supplying weapons-grade uranium and, according to Western intelligence, a complete tested bomb design derived from China's fourth nuclear test. Pakistani scientists didn't need to test the design because China had already proven it. By 1987, operational nuclear weapons likely existed. The 1998 tests at Shagai Hills, conducted in response to India's Pokhran-2, publicly confirmed what the world suspected. Later, Khan's network metastasized into a proliferation web, selling nuclear secrets to Iran, Libya, and North Korea until it was exposed and shut down in 2004. North Korea's nuclear program evolved from Soviet assistance into a tool of regime survival and coercive diplomacy. An IRT-2000 research reactor was provided by the USSR in 1965, and North Korean scientists trained in Moscow during the Cold War. Kim Il-sung's regime then built an indigenous 5-megawatt graphite-moderated reactor at Yongbyon by the mid-1980s capable of producing weapons-grade plutonium. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty was signed in 1985 under Soviet pressure, but IAEA inspections were delayed for years. When inspectors finally arrived in 1992, they discovered discrepancies suggesting secret plutonium reprocessing, triggering a crisis that nearly led to war in 1994. The agreed framework temporarily froze the program, but this collapsed after 2002 when the U.S. accused North Korea of running a secret uranium enrichment program using centrifuges obtained from A.Q. Khan's network. Withdrawal from the NPT came in 2003, and the first nuclear test followed on October 9, 2006 at Punggye-Iri, a plutonium device yielding less than 1 kiloton that many considered a fizzle. Subsequent tests in 2009, 2013, 2016, and 2017 showed steady improvement, with the September 2017 test yielding an estimated 250 kilotons and claimed as a hydrogen bomb. Once freed from treaty obligations, North Korea rapidly weaponized, demonstrating that even a small, isolated state could acquire nuclear weapons if leadership made it the supreme priority. South Africa represents the only country to develop nuclear weapons and then completely dismantle them. The program began in 1974 when the apartheid government, facing Soviet-backed forces in Angola and Mozambique, plus growing international isolation, decided a secret nuclear deterrent was necessary. Abundant uranium ore had been enriched for peaceful purposes, so this was diverted to weapons grade using an indigenous aerodynamic separation process called the Helicon vortex method. 6-gun-type highly enriched uranium bombs were built at a facility near Pretoria, with a 7th under construction when the program ended. These weapons were crude but deliverable, designed for aircraft or potentially revealed as a political deterrent. Intriguingly, a mysterious double flash detected by an American Vela satellite on September 22, 1979, over the South Atlantic was suspected to be a low-yield nuclear test, possibly conducted jointly with Israel, though both countries deny it and declassified CIA documents call it 90% likely a nuclear explosion. The program remained secret until President F.W. de Klerk announced to Parliament on March 24, 1993, that South Africa had built and subsequently destroyed 6 complete nuclear weapons plus partially built a 7th. Dismantlement was ordered in 1990 as apartheid crumbled, motivated by not wanting a black majority government to inherit the arsenal. Joining the NPT as a non-nuclear state followed, with facilities open to IAEA verification which confirmed complete disarmament. This pathway showed that uranium enrichment expertise could yield weapons quickly, and crucially demonstrated that nuclear rollback was possible under the right political conditions. That's all for today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss the next one.